Hello, welcome to another YouTube Live. Here we are with another class. Welcome. Every Monday we have this opportunity where you can ask all the questions and get some free coaching and anything about anxiety, NLP, about connecting with calm, confidence. And today we have a topic that was requested. I love it when people request topics and have some questions and make this interactive. Like, this is something that I love about this. Otherwise, it's just me talking to a screen. So it's so lovely when you have questions, when you have specific topics that you want me to talk about, then just send me a message or pop it in the chat, and this can be added to the list. So today we have a topic that is about how we can navigate times when there is conflict, when we can how we can navigate when other people are lacking in empathy towards us, and like any challenging situation in relationships, when there are situations that there's some misunderstanding or feeling that the other person doesn't really understand us, and also like when perhaps people are judgmental or criticizing or anything along those lines. So we're going to talk about that. But first, before we get into that let's just have a little check-in. Like, how are you feeling? How's everything going so far this start of the week? Just take a moment to take a conscious inhale and exhale and just really notice like what's going on for you. How are you doing? So often we're rushing around, doing. I've certainly had a lot on my plate, and it's so nice just to come back and have these little moments, these little check-ins, just be like, yes, okay, how am I? So how are you? If you want to share, you can pop it in the chats, and it can be really wonderful just to do this with an inhale, exhale, and just placing your hand over your heart. It's like, okay, check in. How am I doing today? And as you're doing that, just notice the contact of the ground. So perhaps you're standing or sitting or walking, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, there's some point of contact of your body is in contact with something, like an item of furniture or the ground or your feet and your shoes. Just noticing that point of contact. And as you do that, just notice that there's that support there, that support. So yeah, comments coming through, not so good. Yeah, life can bring up some challenges sometimes, and it can bring up some things, and sometimes there are emotions that we go through that we process. So yeah, if there are any questions, if there's anything in specific you want support with, just pop it in the chat. It's certainly been a intense time, and even just on a global level, like what we're seeing in the news and everything that's going on, on some level, on an energetic level, we're feeling a lot of that as well. Yeah. Okay, so let's start with the topic of today. So I wanted to talk about how we can feel a bit more grounded and centered in times of conflict or in times of challenge when we're navigating certain situations with people. So there was a question that came through, and one of the phrases that was used was, I can't control people's negative reaction, and wanting to finding it difficult when there's a lack of empathy from the other person. So I wanted to talk about how, like, first step with NLP, it's really important just to notice, like, what's the very essence of NLP, the very essence, and that's that curious mindset. It's getting curious. So it's like, okay, what's behind this, or what else haven't I considered yet? like just getting curious. It's like opening up the perspective and considering, okay, like what else is there? What else is possible? This is what we're talking about in the last class last week. What else is possible? And oh no, I'm not sure if it's the last class. It was in the newsletter. I forget because I put so many things out. Yeah, I think it was the newsletter. I was talking about what else is possible. And yeah, like asking ourselves opening questions can be really helpful. It's like obviously not in the moment of the discussion with a person, but when you're by yourself and if there are certain things that you've experienced that have been challenging, and this can be for anything, it can be like in relationships, or it can also be anything that perhaps we're finding challenging that we're going through, like looking for a job or looking for a house or a partner or whatever it is. So opening questions that help open the mind rather than like, that's how it is, and they're like that, or she's like that, or he's like that, and like putting this limited perspective on things. Because when we shrink everything down and limit the perspective, we're missing what's around. So we're not able to see the full picture. So when we ask ourselves opening questions and we open everything up, it's like, okay, yeah, what else is possible? How is life inviting me to expand right now? What haven't I considered yet? What's the invitation? Like what's the invitation from life? Like how is life inviting you? Like what's the invitation to learn something or to grow in a particular area? I've got this, I'm not sure if it'll be backwards. I know, it's okay. So here you have in the middle, you got the problem, you got the challenge, but then all around you can see that there's the solutions, the insights, experiences, opportunities, choices, ideas, gifts, all of that. So if we're only focused on problem and we're just seeing problem and we're just going over, the mind is always thinking about the problem, we're missing what surrounds it. We're missing all of the other things around it. So this is why the opening questions are so useful. So there are many questions, but those are like a few to start off with. Like, what haven't I considered yet? What else is possible? How is life inviting me to expand right now? Like these questions can really help to open things up and be like, okay. It doesn't mean that we get the answer straight away, but it just means that we're creating space for then answers and solutions to come through. Or even just creating space to be able to connect to the true essence of ourselves even more, rather than being in this squeezed up version. Like I like to think of a garden hose, and you know when there's a kink in the hose and the water can't get through, so like everything's kinked, and I've used this metaphor many times, and when it's kinked, like the energy doesn't flow through, the water doesn't flow through. So opening questions helps to unkink the hose and helps us to really be connected. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're making ourselves more resourceful. And when we're in this more resourceful state and place, then we're able to act and behave and interact with other people from a very different place compared to when we're in that kinked up version, stressed and tired and this and that and the other. And of course, this doesn't mean to say that we have to get it perfect and it's like, oh yeah, I clicked my fingers once and then it's all sorted and I never have issues with anyone ever again. That's not life. There will be times where perhaps we are tired or that we are stressed, and it's this constant remembering, coming back, remembering. It's like, okay, yeah, what helps me to unkink that hose? What helps me to reconnect to myself? What helps me to connect to, yeah, to be in a more resourceful state? These are all opening questions. Questions that help us to expand into the possibilities of what else is possible. So I'd love to hear in the chat, like, what helps you to get back to yourself, the core self within. So some people might say meditation, other people might say dancing, other people might say connecting with nature. Some people might say like some form of expression, like writing things down or painting. Some people might say talking with a friend or a professional, a loved one. Some people might say like having nourishing food and not being hungry or thirsty, like tending to the physical needs, puts us in a much more resourceful state. Yeah, in the comments section, listen to music and to cook, wonderful. Yeah, these can all help. So like knowing these things, essentially what we're doing is we're tending to ourselves. And this is one of the keys, because this is the thing, when we're thinking about the problem, we think, okay, the problem is the other person, or the problem is that challenge whenever people like criticize or bring up something or have a lack of empathy, like we think that's the problem. And yes, there can be something there to look at, and it can be challenging sometimes, though this is the thing with NLP. It's curious mindset, and then bring it back to yourself. What can I do? What can I do? Yeah, going for a walk and talking with a close friend. Wonderful. Yeah, that's so healing. Like being in nature and just moving the body and sharing with a loved one. Absolutely. So it's a great thing to remember. And sometimes like we can actually like write down a list. So I have one here up on my notice board. You can't see it because it's behind the computer. I have a long list, and I put at the top all the things that help me to come back to my center. And I've just listed everything down. And doesn't mean that I have to do everything, because on different days, different times, I might feel differently. So like one day I might need to jump on the trampoline, and then another day I might just need to like lie down on the ground or on the grass in the garden. Or another day I might need to drink some extra water, or another day I might need to listen to some music, and another day I might need silence. So it's all about listening to our needs. Like what do we need? And this is why those check-ins, like how am I today, this can be really useful. Just really getting clear on like what's the body communicating, what is the intuition communicating, what's the inner child communicating. And when it comes to this topic of wanting the other person to be a bit more empathetic and finding it difficult when like people have a negative reaction, or what we perceive as a negative reaction, and that we can't control that, because absolutely we can't control how people react. Like that, how they react is their thing. And we could waste a lot of time and energy trying to control others. Waste of time and energy. It's like focusing back on ourselves. So when I talk about what does the inner child want, like this is really important. And when we're talking about like I can't control other people's negative reaction, like what I was hearing underneath that is that there are some human basic needs that are wanting to be fulfilled in that. So often we think it's about one thing, but when we connect with that curious mindset and we start asking questions, we find out that it's about something else. So underneath that, so it's like, I can't control other people's reactions, but there's almost like this desire and this wanting to have a positive reaction from people, and wanting to like have some form of control over it. Underneath that, like whenever there's this wanting to control, there's a need. The inner child is looking for safety, and the inner child is looking for love and belonging, amongst other things. But those are the two that are like the big ones. So often there's this desire to want to feel safe. There's this desire to want to feel love and belonging, to feel accepted by the other. Essentially to feel safe. Like that's the biggest thing. So it's like, oh yeah, to feel safe. And sometimes when other people have certain reactions or they're not behaving in the way that we would want them to behave, then that can feel threatening sometimes. That can feel threatening, especially if we've had any people-pleasing tendencies in the past. Like if that's something that has come up for us, it's like, okay, yeah, like when people behave in a certain way or how we want them to behave, then we feel safe. But then if they criticize or if they judge or if they are mean or they like disrespect in some way, then that can feel unsafe. So it's about safety. So when we know what it's really about, then we have more options. It's like, okay, rather than focusing on the problem, like I showed you before, so problem, now we know what it's really about. So, okay, yeah, perhaps it's about safety. And obviously, like if this was in a one-on-one session, then I would ask more questions to really explore exactly what's going on behind. But this is the first initial thing that came to my mind that I think, okay, yeah, it could be about this. And I think from what I've seen in the last 11 years, that most of the time it is about this topic, like wanting to feel safe. So it's like, okay, how can I help myself to feel safe? Because we know we can't control the other. Other people will say or do what they want, but we have influence over ourselves. Like our thoughts and our emotions, we can influence that, which then transforms our experience. And we're able to create more safety for ourselves or less safety. So we create more safety for ourselves in terms of setting boundaries if we need to, walking away if we need to, taking a deep breath, coming back to the breath, feeling that contact at the ground, just as we started this class, like really noticing that contact with the ground. And it's like, yes, okay. There may be something uncomfortable or challenging, but Mother Earth, if you want to use that metaphor, like Mother Earth is holding you right now. And this is something that a lot of my clients really love, is just like having that visualization of like, okay, I'm being held, I'm being supported, just really coming back to the awareness of the feet on the ground. And then everything just becomes a lot more grounded and centered. And we're able to respond in a much more resourceful way compared to if we're up in the head with the stories, with the focus on the other. Because when we're up in the head with the stories, focusing on the other, what they're doing or what they're not doing, we're disconnected from ourselves and we're not grounded, we're not centered. And when we're disconnected and not grounded and centered, we don't respond in a very resourceful way. Perhaps we snap, perhaps we get upset, perhaps we say something back that we wish we didn't say, or perhaps we don't think on the spot of a good thing to say, or like there are many different ways that can play out. Though it's just coming back to the breath, coming back. So I'd love to know if there are any questions, anything coming up so far of what I've shared. Yeah, so it's like, how can I help myself to feel safe? And this, like, regardless of the topic that we're talking about today, like this, I think virtually every single human being at this moment on the planet, it's just crazy out there. And it's, yeah, I think most people are going through some kind of chaos personally, and also like on a global humanitarian perspective, like we're going through a lot of chaos at the moment as well. So like any form of activities or things that can help us come back to feeling safe can be really beneficial. And this is, yeah, like the majority of us, like me speaking, and also the majority of people watching this, we're in a position of privilege to be able to do this. Like many people in the world are in a like matter of life and death survival situation at the moment. So the fact that we have this privilege to be able to come back to the breath and feel that our feet on the ground is a really wonderful thing. And us, by doing that, remembering that and coming back to that without judgment, doesn't have to be perfect, but just doing our best, we can then show up in the world in a much more resourceful way and be a lot more helpful for other people. So I just wanted to recap a little bit about the 6 basic human needs, because I talked about safety, and I just wanted to go over them again because these are so useful. These can be applied to anything. I've worked with these for like team building in companies. I've worked with these with clients with food craving issues. I've worked with these with clients that have anxiety, like virtually every topic. They're so useful. So we have, in no particular order. Some people put them in order, but you can decide which one is what you need to focus on at the moment and what's important for you. So, love and belonging. That's one human basic need, to feel this sense of love and belonging, to feel accepted, that we're part of something, like part of a community or a family or a group, like have that love and belonging. Significance, that we matter, that we're important, and not in the ego sense of like, oh yeah, I'm important, but like knowing that we're not invisible and that we have some significance. And then we have certainty. So this is where the safety comes in, that perceived sense of certainty that brings this sense of safety, security, comfort. Variety. So the opposite. So uncertainty, like having some sense of variety, that not everything is exactly the same all the time, that there's some variety in life, because like how boring would it be if you knew every single thing that was going to happen at every single moment, and like when you switched on the radio you knew all the songs that were going to come on, or well, that's not many people listen to the radio nowadays, or like yeah, like if everything was like completely like scheduled and routines and everything was 100% certain all the time, that would also bring up some uncomfortableness for people. Like some people want variety, they want to explore, they want to go on adventures, they want new things, they want to have new experiences. And then we have contribution. So having this sense that we're contributing to the community, to our family, friends, or the wider community, to humanity, that we're contributing in some way. And just by you being here and having this curiosity about to learn about yourself and to learn about life, that's a form of contribution as well. That's a form of contribution, because you're actually like curious and you're showing up. It's like, okay, yeah, like what can I learn about myself? And that learning and those insights that you gain then have this knock-on effect and this ripple effect out into your communities, which also connects with growth. So learning about yourself, so contributing to others, and then also like learning about yourself, about life, growing and evolving in some way. So those are the 6 basic human needs. There are many different models of human basic needs. There's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's many different models out there. Those are the 6 basic human needs that I work with. And this is what often is covered in NLP, or sometimes like Tony Robbins, if you've heard of Tony Robbins, like he usually covers these 6 basic human needs. And yeah, so it just gives an idea of like on an unconscious level, at the level of the inner child, that there are these needs that are being searched for all the time. And it's almost like we have these buckets. So all these little buckets. And these buckets are being filled by according to what we're focusing on, what we're doing. And sometimes there's a bucket that perhaps needs a little bit of attention. So perhaps we're looking for a bit more of that certainty, that perceived certainty, that safety. So in times of conflict, in times of stress, in times of navigating difficult relationships, like how can you create more safety for yourself? So we talked about the breath, we talked about feeling the contact with the ground. Anything else? Anything else? There's many things that we can do. If there's anything that you can think of, just pop it in the chat. So anything else, like what helps you to feel a sense of comfort and safety? It's like, yes, I can just relax. And it can be really little things. Like even like talking about this in past meetups, that some people have mentioned, even just like having like really being present with a cup of tea or a blanket, or like really being present with your senses and when you're in nature, like feeling some sense of comfort and safety from that. Knowing that the sun rises every day, even if it might be cloudy, but the sun rises every day, like that's a certainty there. Knowing your name, knowing like certain things that you know are pretty certain in your life. So it's just noticing, how can I bring that sense of safety? And for some people, it can mean like bringing loving words to yourself. So like placing your hand over your heart and bringing some loving words of, and with the breath, like almost like that. We were doing this in a workshop at the weekend in Barcelona, and we were using the phrase, I'm here. I'm here. So like connecting with the breath and then saying to yourself, I'm here. Or I had a client once that liked the phrase, like, I got you, like saying that to themselves, I've got you, I'm here. So like finding some mantra, some phrase that feels comforting for you. And you can use that before going into, like, if you know there's a possible conversation with someone that you're finding things challenging with, you can use that. Or you can use it in the moment as well, like if you need, like internally, like if you need to say that to yourself. Another thing, like those of you who have looked at somatic practices, some people really love rocking from side to side, swaying side to side. Like it brings this soothing feeling and experience and energy. It's like, this is what we experience, hopefully, as a child, as babies, that we were rocked side to side. And having this and doing this for ourselves is a really wonderful way that we can reparent ourselves. And if you're in a position that you can do that now, so if you're not driving, then just try that now. Like just rock gently from side to side and just notice what changes as you do that. Like connect with the breath, the inhale, the exhale. Slow everything down. Often, like, this is the thing, like in modern day life, we're going at like 100 miles per hour. There's so much information and so much busyness. And simply just slowing things down, slowing down the breath, slowing down our movements for a moment, we can connect to a sense of safety from that. So really slowing everything down. So, yeah, in the moments of conflict, in the moments where people perhaps say things that we don't like, or they're lacking some empathy towards us, they're criticizing or judging, like in the moment, some of the things we talked about so far can help. And also, it's important to notice that one of those NLP presuppositions, people are not their behaviors. Yes, people can say and do mean things, though at their core, people are not their behavior. So often we can, when we're on the receiving end of a comment that we find hurtful, then it's very easy to go up into the stories. Oh, that person is this, or this means that, or like all the stories about what's happening. And then when we're in the stories, we're no longer present with what is, present with ourselves. And remembering that, okay, yeah, beneath all of that, there's a soul, there's a being, and that everyone is doing the best that they know how with the resources that they have. So if someone has a really negative mindset, they're feeling really terrible, maybe they say and do things that perhaps are not so loving, and they're simply just doing the best that they know how with how they're feeling. Now, it's important to remember that this does not mean that we put up with abusive behavior. This does not mean that we then be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to be loving towards everyone. And like, if someone says something mean to me, then that's fine. And, and I'll just be loving towards them. No, like love includes boundaries. Like if you need to set boundaries, if someone's being disrespectful, if someone's being abusive, have your boundaries and walk away if you need to. Is important. It's like first and foremost, like what helps me to feel safe? First and foremost, like how can I be loving towards myself? And the more we're doing that for ourselves, the less we'll be looking for that from the other. And if anyone is being really disrespectful or being abusive, we walk away. So it's about reparenting ourselves and coming back to like, okay, I'm going to look out for me. I'm going to look after me. What do I need? What do I need on a physical level? What do I need on an emotional level? What do I need on like on a mental level? Like, do I need some silence or meditation? What do I need on a spiritual level? Like looking after ourselves. That's number one. And then when we're in this centered place, we can set boundaries a lot easier, and we can communicate our needs a lot easier. So if we do need a bit more kindness from the other person, we can say that, we can ask. Whether they do it or not, that's up to them. But we have a choice to either stay in that dynamic or walk away. Obviously, there may be some like family members or some people that we might have to be in contact with, and they may not, they might be doing the best that they know how, but it might not be in the way that we want it to be. Though there's always the opportunity for us to choose like how much we interact or the way that we interact with them, that there are ways. And we find the solutions to this when we connect with those opening questions. What else is possible? How can I create safety for myself? How can I feel safe in that relationship, in that dynamic, in that situation? So if there are any things that are coming up for you, I'd love to hear in the in the chat, like if there's anything that you're like, oh yeah, perhaps I could do this, or oh, I still have a question about that, like just pop it in the chat. And yeah, it's coming back. It's like, okay, how can I help myself to feel safe? Breathing, slowing down, rocking side to side, feeling the contact with the ground, bringing our awareness back into the body. And obviously these are all just like quick little things we can do, though on a deeper level. Like if we notice that there is this people-pleasing pattern, or like we struggle with boundaries, or there are certain like dynamics that like repeating things happening in our life, then this is something to explore further in one-on-one sessions, or to talk about with a loved one, someone that you trust, just to explore that further. Though really coming back to the breath and centering can make all the difference. So let's just do that again. So take an inhale, an exhale, and just slow everything down. And just continue that breath, inhale and exhale. Just notice again the contact of the ground. And as you do this, just soften your jaw, soften the tongue in your mouth, soften your belly. So allowing this softness all down the front of your body, going all the way down to the feet, wriggling your toes, really feeling your feet. And then notice this gentle lifting up the back. So almost as if you have a helium balloon, like a gentle helium balloon, like a little balloon, just lifting up your head and spine, up the back. So there's this softening down the front and this lifting up the back as you continue that inhale and that exhale. And you can do this anytime, anywhere, with your eyes open or closed, though it's great to practice doing it with your eyes open. And this is one way of many ways that we can come back to center, to reconnect. So just checking the comments. Walk away, yes. So it definitely doesn't make sense to try and make sense with people who are disrespectful by talking with them. Exactly, like if people are not going to, if you've communicated your needs, and if you've communicated that you want that you want them to be more respectful, and they're still not doing it, then yeah, don't waste your time. Especially when we see that there's no room to speak. Exactly, like it's important that each person is able to speak, and if people are in this defensive kind of behavior of like, oh, like wanting to dominate or wanting to control or wanting to do all the talking and interrupting and not letting you speak, like first mention it to them and say that you want this conversation to be a two-way thing. And if they still don't respect that, then because ultimately it's always like we're the ones in control of our experience, like what we choose to do. So we have a choice. Okay, I can either stay and put up with that, or I'm going to look after myself and leave. So what about getting outside help with the situation? Guess this is necessary. Well, it depends on the situation. So when it's a relationship or interaction with someone that is important, like with a partner or a family member, if you need a mediator, then that's also possible, and that can be very useful in certain situations, to have someone neutral there to really hold the space, and that there can be this respectful conversation. But of course, with that, you need to have both people agreeing for that as well. So it's important. And what can happen, like what can be really useful is like when you're like, often what happens in disagreements and arguments is that people are arguing from a surface level. And they're arguing from this place of, you always do this, or you always do that, or you're this, or you're that. So pointing the finger at the other and arguing from this level. Now, when we change the story and we communicate from, I feel this, I would like this, I want to see this, then the other person is much less likely to feel defensive. Because if I'm going, you're this, that's going to like bring up the defense mechanisms for most people. Whereas if I say, I feel this and I need this, that's coming from a very different position. And they're a lot more open to receiving that. And even more so when you find the common ground. So like rather than talking from the surface level, you find the greater vision of the two, like what is I mean, it depends on what the situation is and what the person wants, what the two people like what they're talking about. But for example, in the workplace, you got people on the team and they've got this one project, and this one project, like they want to launch this new product and they want to get lots of sales and they want to like have a great success. But then you've got person A that's saying, oh, we should do it this way, and person B is saying we need to do it this way, and they're battling out. Like, my idea is better, my idea is better. And there's this conflict there. Now, if they remember what the common shared goal is and focus on that and remember that they're on the same team and they're working towards that, then it's a lot easier rather than staying at that surface level of holding on to like it's the ego of like mine and I, and like I want it like I want it this way, and then the other person was like, I want it this way. It's like, okay, what's the common shared vision there? So it really depends on the situation and the person. Like, of course, I'm talking very generally speaking here. Is there another exercise as the one you talk about, side to side? Yeah, so just everyone's different. Like everyone's different. Like what feels soothing for you? Like for some people, it might be gently stroking your arms. For some people, it's side to side. Some people, it's just holding your elbows. Some people, it's placing a hand on over your heart. But the breath is the key thing in all of those. Slow, deep breath. So those are some options. Like if you watch different somatic practitioners out there, they will have many others. I don't do somatic experiencing, but I do work with the body, and like there are other ones like you can look it up on YouTube. Like they talk about like the butterfly hug. There are many other things. Also like working with sound as well, like making certain sounds like humming. That can really help soothe the nervous system as well and help us to feel safe. There's many other things online. Though what I've noticed for like clients and myself, that the side to side and that slowing down of the breath can really help. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously this is a huge topic. But there's a few tips there that can help. And if there are any other further questions, just pop them in the chat. I'll end this call soon. And even if after the call you've still got questions, just send me a message. So you can either like pop it here on the chat or send me an email. All the links are in the description of this video. That I love it when this becomes interactive and people have requests and they have certain things they want to work on. One more thing, at my workplace, not possible because I have many different people who can't really work. They just say that they don't and they can't work their tasks out, and then it's me who has to do it. So you have to do the work of other people. Yeah, so perhaps other people say they can't do it, though also like you have, it's important to notice notice what other people are doing. They're looking out for themselves and noticing what's within their capabilities and what's not. And maybe some people are taking advantage of that, but maybe some people are really tuning into themselves and being like, okay, no, this is too much for me. And they're communicating that. So you have the opportunity to also do the same. Of course, it doesn't mean that we go to the workplace and just be like, oh, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do anything forever and just still expect to get paid. Like, of course, with work, we putting in effort and doing the actual work is important. Though we also have this opportunity to tune in, like what feels good? What is within my realm of capabilities today? And if there's anything that is too much, we have a voice and we can use that. We can ask for help, we can ask for support, or we can tell people that it's going to take a little bit longer to complete, or like whatever it is, that's possible. So almost in a funny way, the other people are giving you an example of like they're looking out for what they're able to do and communicating it at. So yeah, look after you as well. It's important. So this week there are some events. So tomorrow in Villanovi Geltrú, there's a meetup on the beach, and this is a fun, light-hearted evening on the beach. We're going to play some games. We're going to do some interactive activities to really explore the mind-body connection, and that would be a really wonderful way to spend the evening on the beach. And then on Thursday in Barcelona, in the park, in the evening, there's also another event that will be Embodied NLP in the park, and we're going to look at 6 different levels at which we can connect with calm and confidence. And we'll be looking at some of the work of Robert Dilts, who is one of the pioneers in the field of NLP, and we'll look at how moving beyond identity can really help us create a compelling shift in whatever area that we want to create in our life. So those are a couple of events coming up, and many more towards the end of June as well. We've got Women's Circle coming up, and then also we have Danza Libre del Alma, like a dance class with numerology coming up as well. So that's all there. So, and of course, these YouTube lives every Monday. So one more. How do you connect with your inner calmness if the disrespect persists indirectly? For example, if someone is often shouting towards you, but from their space and not directly in front of you, how do you take charge of your inner happiness? So yeah, this is perhaps these are questions that I will go into in more depth in future talks. I'll just make a note of that because I don't want to rush those, and I think that they're important. Though I think this is something that there are many ways. There's not just one way. There's many ways to do this. And I know I keep saying it, but the breath is so important, like coming back to the breath, like that really helps to come back to that sense of calm, to really connect with the breath. And yeah, just noticing like that this is a thing, like when we have some beliefs from childhood that are like almost like create this this behavior, like people pleasing, like perhaps there was when we were younger, like we felt in order to receive love, we had to please other people. Other people had to like what we do or what we say. And if there was any behavior that was different to that, then yeah, again, this unsafe feeling happens. So it's like really working, like noticing what beliefs are there, and this is why I was talking so much about safety, because it's that safety. Like if we can create this sense of safety, then it'll be easier to connect with that inner calmness, and we will just naturally feel lighter, happier. So there's much more to it. I will save that and I will come back to that in future talks. So perhaps I'll touch upon that next week. Though this is a thing, like if someone's shouting towards us, like we can ask them to lower their voice, to talk more calmly, to talk respectfully. And if they can't do that, we have a choice to walk away. Yeah. But I will come back to that future class. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and all your questions and interactions. It's been wonderful to have you here. And yeah, I'll be back next week, Monday, same time, 7 p.m. And wishing you a wonderful, wonderful week. Much love.